Welcome to the first edition of a What's Next for Planet Zoo Community Creations edition. Back in July, we released a competition for the community to create their own pack ideas, and over 500 were submitted to us during the event. This is a compilation of the best ideas, handpicked for uniqueness and creativity, with the absolute best winning a Planet Zoo DLC of their choice. For each one, the contestants get to choose 5 animals, the same format as the official DLCs, and as long as the animal is capable of being exhibited in the current game mechanics. Many packs have also included some alternative species, and I'll also chime in with my own alternative picks wherever relevant. Due to the extremely large number of submissions, this will be the first of potentially several parts, so enjoy the new series as we take a look at the community's finest Planet Zoo DLC ideas. In this first part, we'll cover an assortment of packs that have some association with the North and South American continents. But as there is no geographical condition for the competition, there will be tons of variety sprinkled throughout. The first few packs are from Joao Rodriguez, starting with his penguin pack. This idea features some of the most exhibited penguins currently in zoos and aquariums today, with enough distinction and variety between them to not feel too repetitive. This is exemplified by his selections encompassing a penguin species from each major genus. Although penguins are still debatable about their feasibility into the game, an all-penguin pack could compensate for the difficulty of adding Antarctic animals, because let's face it, that continent is very hard to work into Planet Zoo. Some alternates I have suggested include the Adélie penguin, a close relative of the Gentoo, and that also has a respectable population in captivity. Or the African penguin's close relatives, the South American Humboldt and Magellanic penguins, again also quite common in captivity. The second chosen pack is Joao's Interesting Snakes pack, and a range of interesting snakes are indeed chosen. He has selected the black mamba, arguably Africa's most infamous snake, the tentacled snake with its prolonged tendrils, the nosed horned gaboon viper, the glossy iridescent Boelen's python, and the longest viper in the world, the Atlantic bushmaster. It's a stacked selection of various snakes that will pique the interest of any reptile enthusiast, and packs like these can be considered as a cheaper option to bring more variety to the exhibit roster. And who doesn't like more snakes? Some alternatives can include the green mamba of East Africa, as Joao has suggested, while some other snakes I find interesting myself that could be considered include the eyelash viper and the hairy bush viper. Joao's Canines of the World pack is another one that piqued my interest greatly, as it features many of the overlooked canid species currently absent from the roster. These include the South American Cerrado favorite, the maned wolf, the Amazonian bush dog, the adored Saharan fennec fox, the prominent Asian dhole, and the extremely missed Arctic fox, which was an almost surefire favorite for the Arctic pack but ended up missing out. So this pack helps to culminate all those various species into a dream canine pack for Planet Zoo dog lovers adore. What's more is that all these canine species are featured in high profile exhibits in many of the world's best zoological institutions, so there is substantial pedigree and reasoning for their inclusion. The only real negative is that it may oversaturate the canine roster, but the game itself barely has any at the current time anyway. I would also like to pitch in with some of my own alternatives to give some more worldwide representation, such as the coyote for North America and the red fox perhaps for Europe, although both continents are somewhat already covered by the Arctic fox. A cool festive themed DLC idea comes from Drugai, the Holiday Animals pack, which covers a variety of animals that represent certain holidays of the year. The Huntsman Spider he has chosen to represent Halloween, the Eastern Cottontail, Easter, the Roosevelt Elk, Christmas, as a substitute of course for the reindeer, which was already included in the Arctic pack, the Groundhog, its namesake Groundhog Day, and the Eastern Wild Turkey representing Thanksgiving. As a result, this is a very American themed pack that may struggle to interest players outside the United States, but this idea can be reciprocated for other cultures or for a general international holiday pack with other symbolic animals. An alternative to the Eastern Cottontail is the European hare, which is the traditional symbol of the Easter Bunny in the original folklore from Europe, or the bald eagle to represent Independence Day for a truly American-centric holiday pack, although it would definitely require aviary mechanics. The next pack is the Chihuahuan Pack by Nigel. Now, this is pretty similar to the North American Desert Pack I suggested in my Americas video, but has a more specific and I guess intimate focus on the Chihuahuan Desert in particular, with a well-crafted roster following the standard Planet Zoo DLC template of 4 habitat animals and 1 exhibit animal. It also includes a ground-dwelling bird. These are generally highly requested by the community. The Greater Roadrunner is no exception to this popularity as an extremely relevant bird to a zoo game. I appreciate this pack a lot for its inclusion of 2 overlooked cats, the bobcat, part of the lynx genus, and the cougar, one of the few remaining large cats yet to be added. Although I would also argue the Mexican wolf is a strong alternative here, as it also has a population in the Chihuahua Desert and can provide a canid candidate to biodiversify the selections. Overall, a very solid pack that has relevance to the themes of the Wild West or Mexican culture, which somewhat makes it quite likely to be considered for the future. Next is the California Pack by Gulopithecus. With a diverse range of animals iconic to the state, this pack covers many bases, including representation of aquatic mammals with the California sea lion, the most common pinniped exhibited in captivity, and a species submitted in high numbers during the competition. Also the sea otter, which could introduce a tantalizingly interesting dynamic to the Planet Zoo gameplay. The pack also includes the endemic island fox and tule elk. Both species have gone through their own important periods of conservation in California's history, both having been rescued from critical endangerment and stands as examples of the state's efforts in conservation. The California condor is an interesting candidate. It can be argued that, like other vultures, they spend most of their time on the ground, and they can be animated as such if implemented into the game, but to be honest, I'd much prefer them with aviary mechanics for realism's sake, and their exhibits in zoos such as in San Diego Zoo are caged, so we should stick to that sort of realistic basis. We could also consider an alternative animal for an exhibit slot with the San Francisco garter snake, a multicolored endangered subspecies of the common garter, restricted to the counties of San Mateo and Santa Cruz. Its striking coloration and rarity in the wild makes it a lucrative snake specimen. This is a bit of a left field concept, but since there were many submissions like these and requests for them during the What's Next series, it seems a reasonably popular suggestion, an urban pack featuring animals commonly encountered near human habitation. The idea by Crown Lima is my favorite among the various suggestions. It includes the raccoon, which is pretty much a given choice for such a concept, and almost everyone who did a similar idea included the raccoon. Also included is the Virginia opossum, an opportunistic marsupial found commonly in temperate North America and one of the more highly requested animals from the community. The pack is rounded out with the American red squirrel, the white-tailed deer, and the eastern cottontail. An alternative suggested by the author is the eastern grey squirrel, another tree squirrel which is commonly sighted and an adequate replacement. There are some inherent criticisms to this pack due to its questionable relevance to conservation, therefore making its release as a DLC quite unlikely, but it is nevertheless an interesting idea that deserves its place on our list. South America sorely needs some more representation, as the South America DLC was welcomed, but barely adequate enough to cover the continent's rich biodiversity. Tenanta Reis has come up with their Brazilian pack, focusing heavily on the Amazon rainforest. The largest rodent in the world, the capybara, is an obvious omission from the official DLC and highly popular with the community, standing as a promising flagship for any future pack related to this continent. Rounding off the roster includes the arboreal predator, the Tyra, and a duo of New World monkeys in the white-headed marmoset and bold wakari. For an exhibit slot, the author has chosen the golden lance-head pit viper. With the obvious focus on the Amazon, there are several big-name alternatives. For instance, the giant otter, the ocelot, and the brown-throated sloth that could interchange with a few of these selections. Nevertheless, this pack is a strong complement to the South American roster, which may see further expansion in the future. There were loads and loads and loads of aquatic packs submitted, all of them greatly appreciated. However, the selections by Chris Zoas were most impressionable, as it included some great diversity instead of being too pinniped or mammalian focused. The California sea lion is no surprise here. The walrus is more of an unrealistic proposition, but they do exist in some numbers in captivity and would make for a grandiose choice. The sea otter, as already been discussed, is a great pick that diverges away from pinniped oversaturation, but also covers an absent niche. The marine iguana is a really creative choice that fits with the ocean-going theme of this pack, but also would be very interesting to add a diving, algae-feeding reptile, despite there being no captive marine iguanas. Finally, the emperor penguin rounds off this strong roster as the largest, most majestic and sought-after penguin for the game. The only alternative that is worth mentioning is maybe switching it out for the king penguin, as they appear more readily in captivity and make a more realistic option, but I would have absolutely no complaints to see the emperor added into the game. Drew's ungulate pack echoes the sentiments of many community members and myself who wish to see more hoofed animals into the game, because there is a reasonable amount of carnivorans already, and having more herbivorous species to balance the roster is perhaps necessary. Drew has chosen the Przewalski's horse, the American Mustang, takin, European bison, and the collared peccary. All very possible prospects, especially the Przewalski's, takin, and peccary in particular, because they have been suggested countless times in other submissions and proved to be popular. It seems that many players do want to have another horse species, a wild one, with this, the Przewalski's candidate being a prime example of a conservation-focused choice, whilst the takin represents the need for some more large bovines akin to buffalo. The desire for some more swine species and pigs diversity is echoed with the collared peccary. As an ungulate pack, the scope is quite broad, so there is an immense amount of possible alternatives. Some more high priority ungulates I would like to see include the alpine ibex, red deer, or the wild yak. Finally, we announced our first winner of the Community Creations competition, Gaboy with his Deceiving Creatures pack, one of the most creative pack ideas submitted to us and one that is greatly deserving of the Planet Zoo DLC prize. The theme of this pack is that animals on this list are not quite what they seem, deceiving to the eyes and could be mistaken for a different type of animal. So first, the fossa, Madagascar's top predator, resembles a cat. It hunts like a cat, uses its agility like a cat, hunts lemurs on the ground and treetops like a cat, but it is however closer genetically to mongooses. Secondly, the raccoon dog obviously mistakenly resembles the raccoon, but its closest relatives are in fact true foxes. The aardwolf resembles a canid, even behaving similarly to the bat-eared fox, which shares its niche and overlaps with its range in Africa. However, it is part of the hyena family. The Patagonian mara is very interesting and I love this pick. Sometimes it resembles an ungulate as it grazes in an upright position in its wild grassland habitat, other times resembling a rabbit as it rests on its folded hind legs. However, the animal is in fact a rodent, related to other South American rodents such as the capybara, agoutis, or packers. Finally, the platypus. This animal needs no introduction. As described by the author, it looks like a crossbreed mix between a duck, a beaver, and an otter, but of course is its own distinct species as a unique monotreme mammal of Australia. This egg-laying, semi-aquatic marvel of Earth's biological complexities has also been widely suggested by other submitters and seems a very popular request, and was very hoped for in Frontier's latest Australia DLC. Gaboy has also suggested an alternative for an exhibit slot, the common slowworm. This reptilian candidate resembles a snake species, but is in fact a legless lizard, again thematically representing the theme of this pack exceptionally well. And that ends our first edition of the Community Creations competition as well. Shout out to all the authors that made the cut for their ideas in this video. And also a huge round of applause to Gaboy for taking the debut prize with his Deceiving Creatures pack. We will continue with more parts and announce more winners over the upcoming weeks. Thank you for watching this edition of our What's Next for Planet Zoo series, Community Creations. Like and subscribe to keep up to date with the content, and see you guys later. I've recently updated my Patreon to represent my channel better, so if you'd like to give some monetary support to the channel or be part of the creative process, please check it out and consider subscribing. Your contribution helps to drive better content and coverage over a wide variety of games.